Hello, it is Friday, December 7th, and you're watching news from Kazakhstan on K+. Rights activist Astel Nurgaziyeva was detained in Aktau on Thursday. She specializes on cases of protecting the rights of victims in Zhanaozen. The circumstances of the arrest are still unknown. Before detaining the activist, the Aktau Police Department told reporters by phone that she was attacked by a woman on the street who suddenly began accusing Nurgaziyeva of insulting her and called the police.
Representatives of Aktau Department of Internal Affairs, where Astel Nurgaziyeva was taken earlier, refused to comment on her arrest. Moreover, reporters were denied entry to the building altogether. Starting from noon, mass media camped outside the DIA headquarters, unsuccessfully trying to find out the reasons behind the human rights activist's detention. Nurgaziyeva cannot be reached by phone either, although earlier she managed to send a short message to journalists with the following content: "They keep me bad in, please record my call." Aktau activist Astel Nurgaziyeva is the head of the non-government organization Zaman and has been advocating the interests of Zhanaozen victim families from the start of the trial over 37 oilers. Recently, she was about to finish drawing up citizens' lawsuits and file them to the Aktau court. Nurgaziyeva was also planning to trip to Almaty to attend a special conference next week. The regional DIA media office didn't clear the situation with the detention either. "I can't share any information right now. Call me back tomorrow morning."
Dissidents came to the Polish consulate building in Almaty on Thursday to pass on their address to President Bronisław Komorowski, requesting to decline extradition of Kazakh citizen Meirman Shaoyenov. The strangeness of the event lies in the fact that none of the participants know Shaoyenov personally, or what exactly was he doing in the square in Zhanaozen on December 16th.
"We are social activists. We want to submit a petition to your manager." The petitions requested granting political asylum to the family of Meirman Shaoyenov and preventing his extradition from Poland. Specialists, along with the members of Ruch Pentil movements and Workers' Union, came to the consulate to deliver the letter to Polish diplomats in person. However, none of the petitioners seem to actually know who Meirman Shaoyenov actually is. "We don't know him personally. We're just trying to show solidarity. As the internet community representatives, we have gathered to support a compatriot and express our viewpoint." Shaoyenov supporters were not yet aware that Thursdays are non-visiting days in the consulate. Meanwhile, the Polish party was reluctant to forward petitions to the intended recipient. "If your matter is that important, you will have to wait for some more. I don't know for how long." Finally, an hour later, consulate representatives did make a short public appearance, which however ended up being a lunch delivery pickup rather than a sign of attention to the freezing activists. "Can we hand a petition now that you're outside?" Only after the lunch, consulate officials found time to talk to the activists. However, the meeting only made the situation even more confusing. They said they were not aware of our compatriot detention. Our meeting broke up at this point. Later, it appeared that one of the petition letters did make it to the consul assistant earlier that morning, when fewer policemen guarded the entrance. We were let inside to meet with a consul representative who accepted the petition and promised to forward it to the intended recipients, Polish president and parliament members. The staff of the embassy of Kazakhstan to Poland informed that the consul would get down to the Kazakh citizens' extradition issue only after 2 o'clock local time. Meanwhile, it still remains unknown who exactly the Kazakh citizens petitioned for and why Polish Kazakh Meirman Shaoyenov aroused so much public interest.
Trial over a Respublika newspaper is postponed yet again. The prosecution failed to change its statement of claim. On Thursday, the courtroom was unable to contain all the observers and the publication's supporters. Lawyers asked the court to change the measure of ensuring the claim, in other words, suspending the publication. The court refused to accommodate.
It's not right to change the stated claims based on some lawyers' wishes. Almaty prosecutors probably thought it would be humiliating if they admitted their mistakes. In this case, I may compare mass media with a car. When it runs someone over, it is not the car that is called to account, but the driver behind the wheel. It was not until Thursday that representatives of publication owners were handed a lawsuit and a definition from the judge. There were no changes, though, as the respondent is still the newspaper Respublika and not its owner or the editor. To show the court how ridiculous the situation is, the staff displayed printed dummies of their publication for everyone to see. As a sign of protest, the participants of the trial taped over their mouths with duct tape reading censorship. The question as to whether reporters with Respublika newspaper might continue their work is still open, and the prosecutor was not able to clearly state his demands. In the meantime, observers are already voicing their opinions regarding the trial. What I see is a politically motivated process. I understand that the president's administration may have its own scores to settle with Mukhtar Ablyazov, and there may be political arguments involved, but we have a constitution, and its articles guarantee freedom of speech and information and protection from censorship. This also goes for reporters and newspapers.
Senatorial talkativeness enraged the usually laconic Speaker of the upper chamber. After another lengthy inquiry, Kairat Mami asked his colleagues not to waste time on personal PR.
No need to read this request just to appease yourself and get some TV time, please. Don't resort to cheap PR tricks. It's already common for Russian MPs to silently send their requests on paper and nobody even knows about it. Perhaps it makes sense to review our regulations next year as well. On Thursday, the Senate approved a bill on counter-terrorism. The concept has been updated and now contains the ideology of violence notion. These days, terrorism should be regarded as a social and political phenomenon, say experts, while terrorists are the people trying to affect state agencies through violence and threats. Some reporters questioned the vagueness of the concept definitions as they allow practically anything to be regarded as ideology of violence. Terrorism as a concept is an ideology of violence and as an act is a criminal offense. In this regard, the law provides 3 key guidelines for the counter-terrorism. The main one, of course, is terrorism prevention. We'll be very busy establishing special committees in all the regions to deal with that.
In other news, a new legal twist in the case of Lieutenant Alexei Fomin and a new claim in border guard Vladislav Chelokh's trial. Our correspondents are monitoring the 2 sessions. Here they are with the latest report.
Upon discovery of new facts concerning the defendant, the court considers it is necessary to resume the case investigation according to the Criminal Procedure Code. The judge decided to postpone the last speech of Alexei Fomin, the former chief of the frontier outpost Sarabakhter, resuming the investigation. Defending lawyer Nurpeisev is content about the decision, proposing to hold further hearings behind closed doors. The case allegedly involves classified files. We've tried to prove during the investigation that there is a direct link between the cases and many things connect the squad incident with Arkan Kirgen border post. Moreover, Arkan Kirgen was fully accountable to the squad. We were able to prove this with our case. We wanted to establish the truth and I think we did it. The hearing of Vladislav Chelokh's case, who is charged with killing 15 people at Arkan Kirgen border outpost, was taking place at the same time across town. On Thursday, a new lawsuit linked to the case was filed, although this time it was not against the defendant. Ahmedjan Akalbayev, a grandfather of the murdered border guard Rustam Akalbayev, asked for the compensation of $200,000 from the military unit 2884. According to Akalbayev, Chelokh's family won't pay any compensation anyway. Chelokh is on trial now and he's an adult son of his parents, and that's why I filed my claim to the military unit where my grandson was doing his military service. The defending lawyer Sergei Sarsenov still uses his familiar tactics of filing petitions for every questionable point in the case. He asked for protocols of appointing a new defense lawyer, Sarshanova, demanded to declare void the video of psychological expert review, and also recalled the issue with 3 packages of remains found at the incident site which had not gone through the examination. These remains were sent to Germany, but they were not examined, unlike the remains of Akalbayev, Rey and Imenov. However, there were many bones that they had not looked at, and those remains belong to unidentified individuals. Public prosecutors objected to this, saying that the defense arguments are unsubstantiated and the expert examination was carried out in a proper manner. Your Honor, how long is this going to last? He always counters every single thing said here. He's a professional lawyer and he says that expert examination was not carried out fully. We need to resolve those issues and decide who exactly didn't do full expert review and why. Does Sarsenov have an expert license to say so, since we have already studied expert examinations in this very courtroom? None of the defense petitions were satisfied and the judge made a reproof to Sarsenov. It now looks like both trials involving border guards are nearing their end, and while a turnaround is likely in the first case, Chelokh's chances are looking very slim at this point.
In the meantime, experts along with members of political parties attempted to identify issues that hinder the national party system's development. Kazakhstan's power figures were criticized on Thursday yet again. But what conclusions did the experts reach? Find out in the next report.
It's very typical for Kazakhstan to reduce political plurality as an aspect of democracy to an absurd. Case in point, the authorities are now trying to ban the oppositional party Alga, which wasn't even registered yet officially. The party has a status of the national level entity, yet it may be closed down by some inter-district court of Almaty on economic issues. A vivid example is the Democratic Choice of Kazakhstan, the People's Party that was axed in 2005. I'm convinced that only the Supreme Court should have the sole power to do so. Some members of the Communist Party, which was suspended in October of 2011 for formal reasons just before the parliamentary elections, believe the elimination of disfavored organizations will continue because the ruling Astana is not ready for political competition. We failed to hold even one fair election. Political parties criticize, discuss and work on these issues constantly, especially before the vote, but to no avail. We're not powerful enough to make the authorities change their perspective on how to hold fair elections instead of having to rig the election results. In the meantime, Azat Pirwashov, the leader of Akjol party, which was practically appointed to the parliament under opposition banner, feels himself quite in place as the significant minority. We work with a party that gained a parliamentary majority. They are our colleagues. We deal with work issues, discussions, certain points of confrontation, competition and parliamentary struggle. But it's very adequate, and that is exactly what the parliamentary party should be doing. Participants of this political gathering haven't come to conclusion regarding the construction of an adequate, modern and healthy party system. Yet they've managed to develop certain operational guidelines, although it is not very likely that the president's administration would ever consider using them.
The government is drawing its first conclusions on the national IPO program. The sale of Gaztrans oil shares is complete. Its initial maximum placement capacity amounted to $200 million. However, the demand exceeded that sum exponentially. A good third of the shares were purchased by company employees, which even Prime Minister Sedik Akhmetov joked about on Thursday.
Kayrgildi Maksutovich, have you bought a single share? Of course, our staff has also taken part and bought a lot of shares, around 1/3 of them, or 6,900 to be exact. Officials claimed that civil servants were not pressured into buying shares and announced that 4 more companies, Kegok, Kazmor, Transflot, Samrukenergo and Kaztransgaz, will issue their IPOs after the new year. Sedik Akhmetov instructed his subordinates to monitor the situation. At the same time, the Prime Minister still insists on the benefits of a wider promotion campaign. On Thursday, Public Commission published the results of its research, saying it found no infringements in stock trading so far. Our local mentality makes people delay buying decisions till the very last minute. Even if we had extended it for 2 more months, people would still wait for 40 days and then rush into buying frenzy within the remaining 10-day time frame.
The presidents have left, but debts remain. Industrial mountain climbers who prepared for Nazarbayev's meeting with Vladimir Putin in September are rebelling against a 3-month delay in payments. Employers refuse to hold talks with them, while officials are unable to offer any help. The controversy is investigated in the next story.
The Pavlodar industrial climbers gave a facelift to several city buildings in just a month. Overall, 12 climbers painted 16,000 square meters of facades, preparing for the arrival of 2 presidents. Unfortunately, though, climbers were paid only half of the promised money when everything was said and done. It's already December and we have mortgages and bills to pay. We were counting on this payment and now we're trying to earn a little money to stay afloat, but it is not enough. As it turned out, the industrial climbers didn't sign labor contracts with their employers, who talked about the importance of the event and promised to pay in full afterwards. But after the departure of Nazarbayev and Putin, nobody seems to rush with the payment. We didn't expect this because we knew that Kazakh-Russian forum attended by presidents was coming up. We thought everything will go fine, but it didn't. The social security agencies couldn't help when the climbers addressed them for help. The officials say their hands are tied since no labor contract was signed between the parties. The company's manager says there were no labor relations and we found no records for these employees in the accounting and personnel files, making it hard to prove their employment. Therefore, they were advised to file a legal claim. Right now, the climbers are preparing necessary documents to file a suit against the employer. No matter what, they still believe that they will get paid after mass media coverage of the conflict.
Cucumbers and tomatoes will serve as the flagship for the state program of Forest Industrial Innovative Development. Government and businesses promise to surround the country with a vitamin safety belt and bring down prices for vegetables. Agricultural managers are abuzz about the future abundance.
This innovative agriculture project cost over $15 million and allowed foreign specialists to teach local farmers how to cultivate finest tomatoes and cucumbers. According to managers, the state has finally created very comfortable and beneficial conditions for the agribusiness. The construction of the facility was completed as part of the state program for the accelerated industrial and innovative development, and now it's a leader in the greenhouse industry in Kazakhstan. One such facility can supply 5% of Almaty residents with Kazakhstan's natural products, officials say. The city will now be supplied with 4,000 tons of vegetables annually. The director of the greenhouse believes that as a result the prices of cucumbers and tomatoes should drop slightly. One of the priorities of our policies is to lower the prices in the market. We're trying to create healthy and adequate competition to all imported products brought to Almaty, and we're trying to set the lowest prices around. The news about cheap local products sounds rather fantastic nowadays. Almaty residents haven't yet experienced the change and instead have been noticing quite the opposite situation at local bazaars. Going through the markets and comparing Chinese, Uzbek and local products, it's obvious that the latter is the most expensive. Interestingly, these bumblebees at the construction site of the Advanced State Agriculture Program could be also considered foreign labor, as the insect's task is to pollinate vegetables. Notes that such Dutch bumblebee hives costs €24,000 each. The bill is paid by the national holding Kazagro, and it is quite evident that the main agricultural holding of the country is not going to hold back on anything.
Kazakhstanis with AIDS have been recently placed under an article criminalizing deliberate infection with HIV. Experts made that reminder at a conference in Almaty.
HIV carriers infringing the law are now subject to up to 3 years of imprisonment. There is no exception even for married partners. The Science Center specialists have also come up with the latest research data suggesting that the number of HIV-positive people in Kazakhstan has reached 19,000. More than two-thirds of them appear to be drug addicts. However, experts doubt that increasing legal pressure would improve the situation significantly. In my opinion, this law only evokes a false feeling of safety in our society. The people relying on legislation will become less cautious and develop dangerous self-confidence, while the virus, in my opinion, is mainly transmitted through those unaware of being infected.
Two Karaganda region poachers shot 13 Saiga antelopes, all for their antlers. The poachers were detained on the Ulitau-Satpaev highway this Monday by the Environmental and Veterinary Police of Zhezkazgan's Department of Internal Affairs.
The police stopped the Toyota Land Cruiser with a 28-year-old Satpaev resident behind the wheel and a 26-year-old passenger, as reported by the press office of Karaganda Regional Department of Internal Affairs. 13 carcasses, supposedly of Saigas beheaded and skinned, were found in the car during the search. The animal bodies have been confiscated together with hunting rifle MR-153. The poachers are facing large fines if found guilty. The vehicle, together with the driver and the passenger, was brought to Zhezkazgan DIA. Currently, the incident is registered as illegal hunting, and the pre-trial examination of the case is underway.
Another incident in central Kazakhstan. A residential house consisting of 8 apartments near the town of Balkhash burned down to the ground. The blaze occurred in Konrat village. A child fell victim to the fire.
My son ran out into the entrance, but he couldn't leave as everything was on fire. It was just too late. According to eyewitnesses, the fire started on the first floor. The wooden structure immediately went ablaze. In a matter of minutes, 8 apartments burned down completely and the entire block collapsed. Unfortunately, the 7-year-old boy trapped in the apartment alone didn't survive. Another person hospitalized with burns was a 56-year-old woman. Currently, all tenants who lost their shelter are staying with their relatives and friends. Neither rescuers nor local authorities made comments on the incident just yet. The investigation is underway.
That is all we have time for now. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.